preaching. But I add in the same breath, it's a great time to be here to celebrate 125 years of Mercy Hospital. And so I want to offer my thanks to Jim Fitzpatrick, whom I met today for the first time. He's the president and CEO of Mercy Medical Center. Thanks to David Smith, who helped in terms of some of the details. And here, Father Brett Lingle and all the priests here at the cathedral, Father Novit, who helped get this thing straight, so I can not This is just great. I thank all the priests who are here as well. And I want to thank Jim and Wharton for also helping to arrange so much for today. So, it's a day of gratitude on this feast of St. Martha. 125 years of Mercy Medical Center, Mercy St. Joseph Hospital, Mercy Hospital, Marian Center. Do you remember that? I was here for part of that. Do you know, I've been gone 11.5 years. Isn't that wild? It's just wild. It just seems like yesterday. Great fondness I have of my time here in the Sioux City Diocese. I also was on the board at Mercy Medical Center, but I only got to 2 meetings when they moved me. There's some connection here. It's a cause of that. Sisters and brothers, Mercy Hospital pre-exists the establishment of the beautiful Diocese of Sioux City by some 12 to 13 years. The Sisters of Mercy, though only founded, I believe, in the 1830s in Ireland, were already well known for their works in the United States. And it wasn't the religious community per se that invited them. It was the civic community that invited the Sisters of Mercy to come to this town, really kind of at the edge of something. Sioux City's always been a very great town. I think Sioux City was a little bit of a rambunctious town, wasn't it? We won't want to get into that right now, And the Sisters of Mercy were brought in because they are experts at mercy. They were already known by that name back in the 1880s. Especially experts at mercy for the poor, and the immigrant, and the person in the margins, and the person at the periphery. The sisters were invited, and it is amazing how fast they moved at caring for people and building once they arrived. The sisters were nurses. The sisters were gardeners. The sisters were people of PR. And the sisters were totally dedicated to the corporal and spiritual works of mercy. And sisters and brothers, that catches on, doesn't it? That caught on incredibly well. And so already by the 1910s and all, we have an incredible, enterprising group of sisters, and their ability to draw and to attract people in the community and the area of Sudan to join them. Can you imagine within a couple of years being here, they opened up school of nursing? It's pretty fascinating to do all that back then, and to be so clear-sighted in terms of the needs of the city and the surrounding area. What trust they had in the local population, as well as what trust the local population had in them. Throughout the years, whether it was dealing with the polio epidemic, with an ambulance service, with a heart center, a trauma center, whether it was dealing with the healing of cancer, or so many other things, Mercy was present. And Mercy Hospital, as indeed the great laboratory of the Sisters of Mercy out this way, a laboratory of mercy, was always visible and committed to soothing. It was committed to the Lord. It was committed to His outreach, and a factor that made such a comment of mine so obvious on July 19, 1989, at Flight 232. Sisters and brothers, we are wise. We are prudent to celebrate 125 years of Mercy Medical Center. And we should enjoy rejoice that what started so small, that with such enterprising sensibility of the spiritual corporal works of mercy, that should be so prominent now, as someone who hasn't been here 11.5 years, you start driving up to the city, one of the first things you see is there's the medical center up there. What a beautiful image of what the care and mercy of the Lord is. Sisters and brothers, tonight we read, as we have been ongoingly reading, the book of Exodus. Exodus, the book that deals with a new covenant. A covenant that God makes with his people in Egypt and brings them out. A covenant that on Mount Sinai, after they've left Egypt, he so lovingly wants to give them in stone. And they mess up really badly by chapter 32. And you're wondering, what is God going to do? Will God still accompany them? Will he still be a presence that's converted? Chapter 33 and 34 of the book of Exodus. Is he still walking with them? Well, what happens? They start again. Moses has to write again. But God says, I will be with them. I will be a presence to them. They're my people. And isn't that wonderful that an Exodus, a journey like they did to the promised land, messed up by their own stupidity and sinfulness, that the God who is Lord of Lords, but also declares himself merciful to the 1,000th generation, would pick them up again and say, I will be with you. Because Moses in chapter 34, we didn't read this part tonight. No, he really wonders what's going to happen. But God says, I'll walk with you. And the opening of the book of Exodus was Moses saying, tell me your name. Today in the book of Exodus, God shows Moses his overwhelming presence, which leaves a mark on Moses so profound that everybody notices if they would maybe accept Moses. So intense is God's presence to lead, to be present, that Moses has to cover his face. Some of us may know that that's an image that is going to be taken up later in the New Testament when God gives still the further covenant with his Son. And in that covenant, Jesus tells us all, throw away the veils. You don't need them anymore. Why? You have me. And when you have Jesus, you want that presence to shine out to others. Sisters and brothers, don't you think that had to be behind Mother McConnell and those initial sisters from Ireland? They instinctively knew that the covenant of mercy that the Lord had with the Israelites and then with all the people of God in the New Testament, that's supposed to shine. It's really crucial. So today when we hear about Moses' face, maybe we should think a little about, does our face shine? Sure, certainly should. We have every reason to let it shine. But people get nervous. If it's God's mercy and it's really his, and we do it because we're servants, won't it look like we're showing off? I always look at Pope Francis in his document on the joy of the gospel, his document on that, in which he tells us, well, you should be bold. It's not your boldness. It's God, it's Jesus' boldness in you, and that's why you shine. So we shouldn't be afraid to shine. And we're glad Mercy's going to shine today. But this image of God whose face is turned towards us in Jesus, and whose face is brilliant, and we have it and we can give it out. That really makes sense of the gospel tonight. This is the feast day of St. Martha. Martha, Mary, and Lazarus. In fact, sisters and brothers, we have a parish in Houston, outside Houston. Humongous place. 6,300 families. It's got a huge school, and you know what the name of the parish is? Martha, Mary, and Lazarus. It's the whole family. The whole family. The whole family is, well, let's take a look at tonight's gospel, sisters and brothers. Luke has just told us in chapter 9, verse 51, for those of you who love to count Bible numbers, that Jesus set out for Jerusalem. You can say, so what? St. Matthew tells us that. St. Mark tells us that. Yeah, but Luke is going to tell us again 14 more times. Obviously, St. Luke is not interested in Palestinian geography. But he is interested in what Jerusalem means. And he keeps telling us, went for Jerusalem. Went for Jerusalem. His journey is our journey. And on the way, he accepts hospitality. But then he shows Martha and Mary and everyone, including us, what it means to really give hospitality. Especially when it comes to Jesus. And what is it that he tells Martha? Martha, you are such a great deacon, a deaconess or whatever, because that's the word in Greek, diakonia. And you're so worried. And that's wonderful. But in the process of being worried, you forgot something about the journey. I came to your house on my journey to Jerusalem. I stopped by. And you know what I really want from you? Yourself. And you know what I love from you? Just sit and listen. Let us have that presence. Martha, I want you to shine. Don't worry. Sisters and brothers, I cannot for 1 minute imagine that the Sisters of Mercy who came down here in the 1890s and thereafter, that if they had been nothing but deacon servants who wanted to do God's will and kept that they would have succeeded. There was something about them, but probably because of the spiritual works of mercy or whatever their formation was, that they also knew, if you're going to be a good servant, it's so magnificent to just be in Jesus' presence and listen to his word. If you listen to his word, you let it soak in, you're going to shine. Ministry at work is going to shine. Some people say today's gospel is there's an active life and contemplative life. Oh, I don't think so. I think what the gospel today is, Jesus has a life beyond the opposition between action and contemplation. You know what he wants us to do? Listen. Just listen. Be present. And then, like this, service just flows like oil flowing down the head of Aaron, like commandments flowing out of the beautiful mouth of Moses, like good teaching flowing out of the apostles, like service ministry and hospital work flowing from the sisters and brothers. So, sisters and brothers, we are on a journey tonight too. Pope Francis says, in his document, Evangelii Gaudium, and I have the text here. I should probably quote at least one line from it. Reading the scriptures and listening to Jesus also makes it clear that the gospel is not merely a personal relationship with Jesus and a loving response. It is that. It's also about loving God who reigns in the world. And that means it has an impact on society. It's great work. If you indeed truly listen, if you're a really great St. Martha and Mary, you're attentive to Jesus, it can't help. It flows out to society. So, sisters and brothers from Mercy Hospital, congratulations. Thank you for your kind invitation to bring back the King Bishop who was here in 1997. Learned a whole lot here very soon. Thank you for inviting me back. Thank you, Bishop Nicholas, for your kind invitation. Thanks for all of you being present. Thanks, priests, deacons. Above all, as we'll say in a few minutes, let us give thanks to the Lord our God. It is right and just for what we're about to do in the Eucharist. That's an